Hello everyone, welcome to another match in the ALTTP Randomizer group stage portion of the tournament. This is going to be game 2 against Mclagging and AceZer0187. I am Hammerbro, and joining me is Reg. Reg, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. We've got a great match on our hands here. Like you said, we've got game 2 going on. Game 1 between these two featured some wildly divergent routing and a very close finish. No more than about 90 seconds separating these two. So definitely a close matchup, could go either way. So what do we got on tap for today? Because in this tournament, loser of game 1 gets to make a bit of a change for game 2. So why don't you tell them about that?
Right, so we have a couple of options that the loser of game 1 can choose to alter. One of those that Mclagging decided to change is that we're actually going to be doing a standard mode seed. So no open mode. You have to start with the initial sequence, go save the princess. If you're really lucky, pick up some bombs. And then go ahead and clear the back of escape, pop out in the sanctuary, and then everything starts as it normally would. So that's what we're going to be doing this go round. If we do get a game 3, the interesting part of this is that AceZer will get to make a change, but they will be making their change based upon this seed, not based upon a regular open seed. So we could see some interesting game 3 types as we see a giant rupee board. Well, it's nice to know that we started out the game by robbing our uncle blind. Awesome.
Yeah, Uncle knew he was in for a bad time. Anyways, with this being standard mode while these guys are making their way up to the Uncle, there is one thing I want to call out. The latest version of the Randomizer V31 changed how enemy drops are distributed. In the original vanilla Link to the Past, there are, I believe, 8 prize packs, as we've got Hammer as our escape weapon here. Pretty good, should see pretty decent times. Hitbox can be a bit iffy. Anyways, the prize packs are actually the same now in Randomizer as they are in vanilla, the 8 prize packs that you can shuffle through. What's randomized is enemy assignment to those prize packs. Like as you'll see that guard drop the big magic.
So this is an interesting couple of items to start with. We get the hammer right off the bat, which is nice. That's a fairly nice weapon, especially early on. Gonna murder everything in here in one hit, except for our lovely chain guard. That'll take 2. But that shovel is kind of an interesting item. I wonder if that's going to be a really early check for our runners right after Kakariko.
I would be really interested in seeing if we get a power glove, either before or in Kakariko, because that would let these guys just walk straight out of South Kakariko to the dig spot and then lift the rock to walk to the dam instead of having to save and quit out of anywhere.
That is a fair point. That would be a really interesting. That'd be a really interesting routing setup on the fly. I wonder if our runners would be thinking about that. That's something I would probably miss. Either way, the main thing we're looking for right now is bombs. The boots, if we're really lucky, because you can bonk open that hole in the back of escape. But bombs are a bit more likely.
Yep, although chat's already calling it out, but with these guards dropping magic, the prize pool containing both big and small magic does not contain any bombs. So as chat's calling out, the only enemies in Escape that will possibly drop bombs are the rats. And I think we're seeing both of these guys not really go out of their way to farm extra guards.
Yeah, AceZer grabbed a couple on the onset, but has since stopped. So it's just kind of a, I'm going to run through everything as I see it, and nothing else. All right.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. So this this little grab here makes your power glove assumption a little more interesting. If they end up with the power glove, they might just skip South Shore for now and head straight into Village of Outcasts.
That would certainly be an interesting alternative play if it's there, because they could go straight into Village of Outcast. With that hammer, they could just immediately dive Thieves Town at like 7, 8, 9 minutes. And that would be quite something.
Yeah, that would be crazy. I guess it all depends on how how much importance they're putting on dungeons versus overworld checks. It'll also kind of depend on whether or not Thieves Town is a crystal or a pendant. So that's something that we'll see in a little bit.
Yeah. In the meantime, we're escorting the princess out. We're going to go back into the sewers. We've already found the small key. I don't believe we've seen the map yet. So there's still 4 items to find between the cross room, the back 3 if they can find a bomb somewhere, and the sanctuary.
Honestly, with just the hammer and 1 heart, Mclagging's going to want to be careful here, because the snakes and the rats aren't super annoying, but the hammer has a bit of a lag when it comes to smacking that sucker down, so you don't want to get hurt too much here.
Yeah, he's fine. He knows where the hidden hearts in these pots are.
Did I just see another magic drop from a snake?
Yep. The snakes are using the same prize pack as the guards, and the prize pack that those are randomized into only contain magic drops, both big and small.
I'm glad that you know much more about these prize packs than I do, because I'm just kind of sitting here going, oh, that's a lot of magic. Cool.
Yeah, that's why I called out the V31 change to prize pack randomization, because it actually, when you've got good runners like these two, it's a big deal when you're playing standard.
That is a fair point. Rats so far not really dropping anything, and Mclagging decided, not really worth my time.
Yeah, he can always come right back in and drop as soon as he gets a power glove. That's very close to the sanctuary save and quit point.
Well, that's kind of making an assumption here that there's going to be a power glove that's not in the back of the escape, which is always kind of a scary thing about standard.
Yeah, AceZer is making the exact same play though, opting not to try to farm the rats, which I didn't see if they dropped anything. That fairy, I think that rules out any bomb prize packs for them off the top of my head. So they're both going to have, if there are like 2 gloves back there somehow, they're both going to have to make the same trip back.
Yeah, makes sense. That fairy was also the first drop I saw from a rat outside of hearts, which isn't really conclusive, I don't think.
Actually, double checking the prize packs. Oh, here's a map check. I saw red and blue pendants at Eastern and Hera. Did not catch desert.
I saw the same thing you did and also did not catch desert, so not being of much help, sorry. Mclagging taking the walk of shame down the staircase and then having to go back up.
Oh,
Hey,
there's
look,
a bomb
it's a bomb.
drop. Yep. Gonna need 3 of those in Kakariko, although with the money they got, they can just choose to buy.
Yeah, but not having to buy bombs, honestly... Okay, so desert is a regular crystal. Not having to buy bombs is honestly a much cleaner way to route Kakariko.
Yeah, as long as you get the 3 so that you can... Even if you just get 3, you can buy them after the chicken hut check, which is about as clean, but I do generally agree with you. And we did find the flippers just sitting there in the Lost Woods. So that's going to be an extended South Shore check if they choose.
Yeah, well, so far, Mclagging foregoing Kakariko at all. So, for those of you who might like multi-world a little more, we're going to get the famed Kak skip.
I've seen this from a couple runners that didn't get any bombs before actually reaching the village. He's checking the Hylia Island for junk, and he'll buy some in this shop. Curious to see where he goes after, though. If it were me, I'd make the Eastern Palace play, but I love that play in ways that most runners seem not to.
Well, with Eastern Palace being a pendant at this point, you can pretty much just go in there, clear what you can, and then walk out, and not really have to worry about it too much after the fact.
Which is exactly why I love that play so much in race settings. And it looks like Mclagging is going that direction. All that remains to be seen is whether he actually goes into the palace itself after checking Sahasrara.
So AceZer grabbing some blue goo here, and there's some bombs, so that'll actually be really nice.
Yep. That bottle is nice too because it lets him check Sit Kid without leaving. Oh, there's a bow on one side, Power Glove on the other. That hurts the Eastern Palace play a little bit if it turns out Armos Knight has an item.
Well, as it turns out, Mclagging just quit and save out, so we're not doing any Eastern for the foreseeable future. Does look like we're going to get a backup escape check, though.
Yeah, with that glove, no reason not to check that immediately. We did also learn that our green pendant was at Misery Mire. Sahasrara gives us that information. So we do know where all the pendants are as AceZer finds a sword now.
And the rest of the well being complete. And yep, nothing terribly useful back here either.
Yep. So we've got a lot of weapons so far, in addition to the gloves and pearl being Dark World access for Mclagging, wherever he chooses to start it. And those flippers as well.
Speaking of weapons, we also got ether from the bottle vendor, so that'll be nice.
Ether does require the sword to use, but AceZer got one of those out of the well. And we also see Mclagging taking the south route into Kakariko Village, it looks like, instead of opting to go immediately into the Dark World, such as for Hype Cave. Wouldn't be surprised to see him do his Kakariko checks, then north into the Dark World portal from there.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, I wouldn't even blame Mclagging for not even checking Hype Cave. So far, at least from what I've seen of these races, Hype Cave has been uninspired.
Yes, but it's still 5 items that are available in less than 10 minutes. So, can't put it off that long. Although, depending on where certain other items show up, like, say, the Magic Mirror, may combo that even with other Light World South Shore checks.
Was that a vanilla book in the library?
Was it? I didn't see it. I did see a bottle on the race game, which AceZer is blind checking. And Chad is saying 300 in the library.
Yeah, ignore the blind person. It was apparently lots of money.
AceZer thumbing his nose at the bottle, having already found one in the well. Mclagging's going to appreciate it because it'll let him route in Sit Kid immediately, not knowing that there's another one to be found in Kakariko.
Well, either way, I'm pretty sure that other one is a bit farther north of our Sit Kid, so he'll still be able to route it a bit more perfectly.
Yeah, save him a couple dozen seconds there having to walk back and forth, which is always nice.
Meanwhile, AceZer just a couple seconds away here from their Power Glove.
With that bow in hand, I would be fairly surprised to see AceZer not dip Eastern Palace. But at the same time, he'll have his Dark World access, so the entire world is his oyster at that point.
Honestly, at that point, I wouldn't be surprised to see AceZer wait for the the mirror, and maybe try to do them both together.
If they were both crystals, I would strongly agree with that. Pendant Eastern, either you want to commit to it early, like as early as you can get over there, or you want to put it off as long as possible, is my experience.
That's fair. Either way, it does look like you're going to get your Hype Cave check, so we'll see if that ends up being anything useful today.
Yeah, and then I'm curious which direction he'll go afterwards, if he'll edge his way over towards Digging Game, or if he'll make his way... Oh, there's our map check, our 5-6 crystals being the Palace of Darkness and Ice Palace today.
As Mclagging picks up their sword, so that's one less thing to worry about. And the 51 rubies that are left assorted throughout this part of the well.
Yeah. Unless AceZer pulls Titansmiths out of this cave, I would like to see him head over towards the Pyramid and Pod and make that play early, with Pod being a crystal.
And Hype Cave continuing its standard uselessness. That was a very unfortunate Hype Cave, actually.
Unsurprising, but Still not a location that most runners can afford to ignore when it's available this early.
Oh no, you definitely don't ignore it. You just don't expect anything out of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And we do see AceZero choosing to make the play that I've been championing for the past few minutes, making his way up towards the pyramid, ignoring Stumpy, ignoring the digging game, because that would just be a save and quit for him. He wouldn't be able to go anywhere else aside from a very long walk.
That's fair. You know what both of our runners have also ignored thus far is everything on South Shore. So it'll be interesting to see if they come back to that in, 20 or 30 minutes and have there be something useful there.
We'll see. For now, we've got Mclagging taking the other Dark World portal that I think you initially theorized when I brought up the glove. So, Village of Outcasts on one side, Palace of Darkness on the other.
Yep. Palace of Darkness can be really, really annoying without the mirror, so let's hope that AceZero ends up getting a key layout that isn't terrible.
Yeah, the good news is that he's got the hammer, which means that the right side isn't a dead end for him. And he's also got green mail and just 6 hearts, which also makes death warps fairly fast.
That is a fair point.
Generally speaking, you still prefer the mirror in situations like this, but it's not the end of the world to do it without it in this case. Although chat bringing up a good point that if he does go all the way to the boss, that Dark Turtle room on his current equipment is not going to be a fun time.
Yeah, that's really something that you, at the very least, want the fire rod for, because being able to light up that room makes it not horrible, but just murdering those turtles with the hammer, not fun in the dark.
Honestly, if he does go for it on this equipment set, I'd kind of like to see ether strats. I think those can be pretty valuable.
That's a fair point, but you still have to flip those suckers over for ether to be any use. And once they flip back over, they're not fun to be around.
Anyways, Palace of Darkness key logic says 4 keys in the front 6 chests of the dungeon. 2 chests so far, 2 keys. And the chest he's going for now contains the big key in the vanilla game, but here you spend 1 key to get anything, quite possibly even another small key.
Yeah, this is usually when we're oh, there's our fire rod. Okay, that'll be interesting. We might see a Skull Woods and kind of unideal Mothula fight after grabbing that in Thieves Town.
Okay, so AceZero has now met his requisite 4 keys in the front of Palace of Darkness, which means that these 2 chests on the Bowlock side can be anything. And yeah, that fire rod is in a very convenient place. I would be surprised to see Mclagging skip Skull Woods after he finishes Thieves Town.
Yeah, it won't necessarily be an ideal fight, but if he can withhold on the magic and prevent Mothula from just kind of sticking up towards those upward spikes in the room, fire rod will be helpful. Otherwise, it might end up being a hammer fight, which can go one of 2 ways very quickly. Alright, just a Fisher-Price shield there, and another small key. So it looks like we had 5 keys in the front this go-round. That just means that our back is going to be loaded with non-dungeon items.
There's still a map and a compass to find, as well as a big key and 1 more small key. But 5 items in pod, we've only seen 1 so far, so that's 4 of those.
AceZero very nearly managed to dodge every single one of those, which would have been very impressive, as it is only taking 1 hit, which is still pretty nice.
Yeah, the way that those things chase you makes them real obnoxious. And the fact that they
when
just... Yeah, and if you hit them, they knock you back a very incredible distance. I don't think any enemy knocks as far back on their hits as those guys.
No, speaking of, we did get our 6th small key, and then, oh, that's the Titan's Mitts.
That it was. Titan's Mitts in the dark. And big key in the other chest.
Yep, so apparently we're just going for things that are golden and thus don't show up on the palette in the dark.
Yeah, it is worth noting that as of V31 of the randomizer, that room is in logic with the fire rod and no lamp, as AceZer finds that magic mirror. So,
Pod is loaded so far. This is going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. And the big point is those Titan's Mitts, 100% in logic with what we know of Mclagging's equipment.
That is fair. They would have just expected you to do what Mclagging's doing first.
Precisely.
These items, on the other hand, not so much in logic.
Nope, no torches in the dark maze, which means that you can't light it up with the fire rod unless the game does not expect you to do this in the dark. That was a Book of Medora in that chest. So yeah, Pod is loaded today.
So if AceZer was paying attention, they would know that they don't have to open this chest because it has to be either the compass or the map, with Helmasaur having the other. But things happen.
Yeah, you're already there. Just let muscle memory get the better of you with that mirror.
Okay, and deciding to not worry about Helmasaur for the time being.
I can see it. Dark Turtle's on his current equipment, as we said. Not the most friendly thing in the world. Does look like he's choosing Eastern Palace instead, as Mclagging clears up Thieves Town. Didn't see anything of note there besides that fire rod, but that's still progression for him.
Honestly, I think that getting down to 1 heart may have made that decision for AceZer, because they were running away from Pod, and then they got hit a couple times and went, well, maybe Eastern's safer, and then I can just death warp out if I want to.
Yeah, overworld deaths in the Dark World are never fun, because unless you've both killed Agahnim and have the mirror, which we only have one of those 2 pieces right now, it'll kick you right back to the light world.
Yep, so Eastern's a pretty safe place to go ahead and get a couple more hearts, grab a couple items if they're in here, and then just peace out.
It is also worth noting, I mentioned the fire rod logic for Palace of Darkness earlier. The same fire rod logic applies to the dark room before the Helmasaur King in Eastern Palace, but it does not apply to the very last small chest that has the big key in the vanilla game, because there are no torches there. So if the big key is not in its vanilla spot, King Helmasaur is in logic with what we know. Although AceZer obviously does not know that.
Armos Knights, you mean, yes.
Oh yes, my bad, sorry.
It's cool, same spot, just the wrong side of the dimensional rift.
Yep. And on Mclagging's side, we did see him detour to the Bumper Ledge Cave before coming into Skull Woods, and that was absolutely nothing, so just into the dungeon for him, starting with the middle, but otherwise doing a front-to-back clear. And it looks like the big key for AceZer is going to be vanilla, which means Lamplock Dungeon. Lamplock Pendant, specifically.
Yep, so we're going to come back here, grab our big key, and then at the very least open the big chest. And then we'll see what AceZer decides to do after that. We may have a clearing of the Armos Knights, although I don't necessarily expect it at this point.
I think he will if there's an item. It's not a very difficult dark room to do if you've got experience with it.
That's a fair point. I just feel like with the mirror and with the fact that you have to come back here for the Helmasaur King, I don't know. I feel like you've got a lot of stuff that you can clear that's going to be a lot more lucrative than going after Armos at this given point.
Yeah, you're not wrong about there being a lot more lucrative options. Choosing to do Armos at this point would basically be a hedge against having to do it later, because you're not going to be close to this location again for a rather long time, depending on when you choose to come back for Helmsworth King.
That's a fair point, and looks like he is taking your routing choice, as Mclagging has a little bit of difficulty with this room here. Gonna have to try and grab some more magic, I think.
Oh, he got 1.0'd by that Wallmaster. Got grabbed after he fell in the pit. Since he needs more magic to clear that torch room in the absence of a lamp, he's going to go get the other chests now and try to resolve the magic issue afterwards.
Yeah, this is the point where having the mirror would have really, really helped. But fortunately, at least for this one particular instance, Gibdos do 2 hearts of damage, and Green Mail offers no protection against that. So, Death Warp didn't take too long.
Nope, and Chad is calling out that him getting grabbed there was probably a plus, which I am inclined to agree with, just because of the aforementioned magic situation. As AceZero kills the Armos Knights for 10 arrows, not even a full refund.
So now, at this point, I would be interested to see if AceZero decides that, I don't think that wall mastering was intentional. Really got boxed in there.
Yeah, which is it's a shame he couldn't get that second pot lifted and magic pot grab, because getting Wallmaster does reset the contents of these pots, which will let him pick up even more magic out of this room, but he could have had a full bar if he was able to get the other one.
I'm somewhat surprised that Mclagging isn't just using Ether to do away with all of the Gibdos. But, you know, hindsight and all that.
Yeah, at this point he has 4 fire rod shots, which means he's got enough to get out of the room at least. But Ether definitely probably would have saved his bacon.
Alright, so this will be interesting. We have 1 fire rod shot to go off of, so it looks like we are mainly going to go with hammer strats, I would presume, since fire sword strats are not fun.
Fighter sword spins aren't too bad on this fight.
Oh,
although, yeah, hammer is twice as much damage.
Yep, and while the hitbox is really, really bad, you do maintain your full mobility around these spikes and Mothula itself. Whereas with a fighter sword spin, you have to charge it, and then you're hampered a bit.
Yep. Also, it didn't really come into play here because Mclagging only had a little bit of magic while entering the fight. As he finds the other rod there, that's a big find, and a crystal. But the fire rod only does Master Sword tier damage to Mothula. The hammer and the tempered sword are both stronger. So if you're struggling with this fight while trying to use the fire rod and you've got a tempered sword to use, prefer that.
Yeah, most definitely. Tempered sword completely destroys the moth. Alright, so Ice Rod being there is going to be a relief for both of our runners, because that means they're just going to kind of run into it and not have to worry about doing the hunt.
It's a relief for me, too. I've seen too many seeds this tournament come down to random Ice Rod hunts that just have not been fun to watch or play.
Alright, so something to keep around in the back of your head, that AceZero did not have enough money for Zora. So far, Zora is an orphaned check out there.
Yep. Super orphaned because he did the Catfish Mirror to Zora play and was able to see everything else in the region.
Yeah, that one might very well be a, well, I'm never coming back here, and if Zora has something, well, oh well.
In the meantime, still one more item to find here in Skull Woods. Could be this pinball room here. That's another V31 change. This chest is no longer a guaranteed small key. Yep, and there it is with the blue cane.
That's kind of an interesting find.
What I'm hoping to see soon now with that blue cane find is the hookshot. That way, once Mclagging catches up, gets his mitts and mire and all that junk out of Palace of Darkness, when he goes up to Death Mountain, he'll be able to just circle around in one long loop, starting at the east side of, well, I guess starting with the old man, then going to the east side, doing that in the light and dark, and then ending at Spike Cave, which is a very often forgotten about location just because of its obscure requirements.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that it's almost definitely going to end up being a save and quit point. So you want to do that last, and if you don't have all the stuff needed to get from the west side of Death Mountain back to the east side and then back to the west side, you'd be much more likely to save and quit from Spiral Cave or something similar. So the old man did give us the superior boomerang, so that's something.
It's something. It's a fun item, just sadly it opens up exactly 0 checks. And the Death Mountain route you mentioned with a probable save and quit at somewhere like Spiral Cave looks to be what AceZero's play is. He doesn't have the hookshot that I mentioned, so his only choice is to mirror up to Tower of Hera in the vanilla way, quote unquote.
Yep, with their current health, I would not be surprised to see that full heart container picked up.
Yeah, full containers aren't something you generally thumb your nose at when they're that free. It's like 3 or 4 seconds. Then again, vanilla and MG runners do thumb their nose at Saint Heart. The really good ones, at least.
Yep, and AceZer just going ahead and thumbing away. Alright, cool. So without the Master Sword, we won't be able to actually collect those tablet items, but we still get to see what they are. And that's helpful because, well, we're not going to be collecting that item.
It also means that he didn't have to watch the obnoxiously long cutscene to get that item. Never will.
Yeah, sometimes I wish that they would give us that option, that if you walked up there and hit Y with the book, it, would just let you read it off as opposed to having to go through the whole motions of it.
Well, big key there means that AceZero is bailed out on not having a fire source. He doesn't have to go to the basement yet. There may still be an item down there.
Yeah, but on the flip side here, we have the potential for yet another orphan location if there does end up being an item in here.
Could always be a lamp up here. That'd be something.
That's a fair point. We don't have too many locations left for our lamp if we're looking to get that at any point.
I mean, the only place that the lamp really can't be so far from what we've seen is behind the book. Right?
That's fair. Also, to be fair, right now, given the fact that we have not found the flute yet, the lamp, from what we know, is unlikely to be on Death Mountain at all.
Right. Unlikely, not impossible.
No, most definitely not, because the flute could still be sitting somewhere like Smith Chain.
Somewhere like Ice Palace.
Somewhere like Smith Chain. Be nice.
Well, sometimes the seeds be nice, and sometimes the seed's not so nice, like AceZero jumping into a mold worm face. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, Moldorm showing up a couple months too late for the MLB postseason, but still getting a home run out of it either way. So, that's something.
But, yeah, the only dark locked item we found so far this seed, as I've mentioned previously, is the Book of Medora, which means that the only place that's hard off the table for the lamp at this point is the Bombos tablet. Desert Palace is probably off the table too, as AceZero gets his revenge and picks up his second pendant. But if the flute is somewhere, then you can just mirror in the desert and it could be there.
Yeah, the only damning location for the flute at this point would be somewhere on Death Mountain. If the flute is up here, then the lamp would be required to get up here. So then we'd be able to cross off anywhere else on Death Mountain for locating the lamp. And in addition to that, mire and desert. Alright guys, strap yourselves in, keep your hands and feet inside the spiral cave at all times. It's going to be a long walk with a little bit of turbulence here.
On Mclagging's side, you can see the randomizer developer intended way of doing this room in this seed. Turn right or left, light the torch, and yeah. Well, the good news for AceZero is that doing Spiral Cave first like that, he can still end his Death Mountain route at Spike Cave. Except AceZero has no invulnerability item to do Spike Cave with unless he finds the cape somewhere on the mountain.
Yeah, so Spike Cave wouldn't be in logic, but I do believe they picked up a blue goo, right? So it would be doable, if just barely. Yeah, because they're sitting at 8 hearts, so you can do that. It'd be tight, but you can do it.
It can be done, yeah, but like you said, not in logic without an invincibility item, which for AceZero at this point would have to be the cape, even though we know Cane of Burna is available. And that looked like a lot of junk and a fetch quest in the Paradox Cave to me. All our dense locations not really paying off post Kakariko.
Yeah, that's been kind of interesting. I'm kind of just waiting to see for, when our next actual important item is. Honestly,
I mean, just looking... Sorry, go on.
No, you're good. A lot of those items were located in dungeons, so it seems like we're getting a dungeon-heavy key item fest so far. Outside of, obviously, Kakariko having a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and looking over what's not lit up on the tracker so far on either side, it's the hookshot, the Cane of Samaria, maybe the boots, and maybe medallions, which I was totally caught up looking at the tracker, did not see what Turtle Rock's entry was. Jat's saying Quake though, so that's a medallion we need to find.
Vanilla Quack. Well then, so now we know that the lamp is no longer located anywhere on Death Mountain or mire or desert. So that shuffles it down a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But we've still got the entirety of the overworld that hasn't been seen yet. We've still got the entirety of Ice Palace it could be in. Depending on where the hookshot is, we've either got the entirety or just the front of Swamp Palace as well.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We are still very much spoiled for choice.
And yeah, as Chad is saying, we are 37 minutes, 40 seconds in, and nobody has checked the mini Moldorm Cave yet, or the dam.
Yeah, that's interesting. I suspected that our runners were going to circle back before this point. It didn't end up being the case.
And we do have the Dark Turtles on Mclagging's side with that Fire Rod, so he's going to be able to just one-shot clear this dungeon, kill the Helmasaur King, have a nice day.
It will be interesting to see if Mclagging decides to do Eastern afterwards.
Wouldn't surprise me because it's right there and it's a fairly reasonable set of checks with so much of it being in the so-called Sphere 1. but at the same time, we know it's nothing, so it's not going to hurt him to skip.
You know, it's kind of interesting that AceZer has cleared 2 Pendant dungeons so far and nothing else.
And there's the Helmasaur King down for Mclagging. Had a very good thing going with the hammer for a couple seconds, but then got hit, lost it, resorted to the bow, and had a great bow kill.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea when you're sitting on 3 heart, fighter sword, and green mail. You can take 1 more hit, but you really don't want to take 2, so it's usually best just to kind of keep your distance, let the bow do its work. Nope, we're just going to ignore Eastern. Alright, so that's one less thing for Mclagging to worry about, at least for the moment. We'll see if he decides to come back later.
I somewhat doubt it. Like I said earlier, Pendant Eastern, either you commit to going there as soon as you can, or you commit to skipping it as hard as you can.
That's fair. I wonder if maybe we're going to see, finally, South Shore at 40 minutes? Maybe? Please?
Looking like it to me. He didn't go into the Dark World, which signals that he doesn't intend to go into Swamp Palace, which, why would you without the hookshot? That's pretty high on the list of silly things. But
So this could be an interesting mental set of locations for our runners. Because for either of them, if they find something here, especially something that expedites their life, like potentially the boots, or maybe even the hook shot or something of that nature, they could be feeling like their opponent had it, I don't know, 35 minutes ago.
well, not quite 35 minutes because we were still in the castle, but point totally taken. I get what you were going for.
I keep forgetting this is a standard seed.
Standard could be the biggest reason that this seed really disincentivized checking South Shore so early, though. Anyways, we're seeing the Smith's area checks on AceZero's side. Blue mail and a piece of heart so far. He's still got the hammer pegs and the chest turn in to go.
And Mini Moldorm Cave following our thus far set of useless dense locations. So at this point, conversely to what I said, Mclagging probably feeling pretty good about waiting until 41 minutes in.
Yeah, because he can make a bit more of an efficient set of checks here. I guess the flippers were super early, which doesn't really impact the efficiency of this. He could have done the exact same thing immediately post-CAC. But somebody in chat earlier mentioned the possibility of combining South Shore with an Ice Palace play. And that's absolutely on the table for Mclagging here still.
Honestly, given how Mclagging's been playing this seed, it really wouldn't surprise me. He seems to, by far and large, incentivize going through these crystal dungeons and just taking them out. So I would be kind of surprised, actually, to see Mclagging elect to not do Ice Palace very soon.
I think we'll probably see the other flipper checks in the area, the Hobo and Zora's Domain first. But that waterfall, or that whirlpool warp right back to Ice Palace is right there if he does Zora.
Yeah, alternatively, it wouldn't surprise me to see some sort of amalgamation of that. So maybe Hobo now, and then go do Ice Palace, and then do your flipper checks if you could be bothered to have confidence in remembering that afterwards. Because then you wouldn't have to backtrack.
I would personally be more concerned about confidence in single magic fighter sword Ice Palace without Bombos, but both of these runners are better than me, which is made fairly clear by the fact they're playing in this tournament. I'm not.
Meanwhile, it looks like we are getting the duck unstuck on AceZero's side, so go ahead and grab your cheese and quackers.
And He's going to walk the chest down, probably combine this with his own South Shore checks, after doing Thieves Town, of course. And probably after doing Skull Woods as well, once he finds this fire rod in here. Oh, that potion buy absolutely signals Ice Palace to me, though.
Yeah, most definitely. I would presume that he would have much preferred that to be a blue potion, but you get what you can.
I believe Mclagging still has the blue that he initially found.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm pretty sure both of our runners do, actually.
Well, here's Ice Palace, the land of one check super early, and then the rest are pretty deep.
It's the merry-go-round dungeon, because you go around, and then around, and then around, or you bomb jump and, just forget about all that circular motion.
Even with the bomb jump, this is going to be the only check we see for a couple minutes once he gets it. I do sort of like this bomb strat from him, but he can tell it's not going the way he wanted to in pulling out the hammer.
Yeah, this is not really the room for it. Oh, hello. Well, that's one less medallion to worry about.
And that's progression coming here totally justified and required.
Yeah, so at this point, we are just a couple of items away from go mode. Cane of Samaria and the hookshot, I believe.
Outside chance of the boots, with both Desert being a crystal and Ganon's Tower having a torch. But yes, you're correct.
That's a fair point. I guess we'll see how that plays out. It wouldn't surprise me to see a desert check somewhat soon, actually. Because if it's not boots locked, you can clear it. And if it is boots locked, well then you know that you're not in go mode until you get those boots.
Yeah, I think we'll see that from AceZer before we see it from Mclagging, just on account of that flute and being able to combo with Mire. But I think it is a good play for both runners to make as soon as they can, just for the reason you gave.
Yeah, speaking of which, I wonder if we're going to see an Agahnim cave check. That's always kind of an interesting check to route in whenever you can, or preferably can't.
I would be surprised to see that at any time except combined with a desert check at this point.
Mclagging enjoying that Pengator room a lot better than the first one.
The low percent NMG strat for that room, where you drop two bombs somewhat next to each other, is really cool. But not having boots makes that strategy pretty hard because you can't bonk over the Pengators to let the bombs explode on them.
Yeah, so you either have to eat a Pengator to the face or smack one like Mclagging did and just kind of take care of it separately. Meanwhile, these berries are being really, really annoying.
We are getting to see one of the lesser used Ice Palace bomb jumps, though, from Mclagging in this room.
Very nicely done.
Just blows him right across that hookshot requirement. Now, an unfortunate side effect of Mclagging's Ice Palace routing here is that the hookshot logic depends on the first chest, the Pengator chest, which he found Quake in, the Ice Key chest, and the Freezor chest. This is none of these.
Yeah, but at this point I feel like it's less about key logic and more about just going ahead and clearing it. You can sift through the logic later if you find anything that's terribly useful that could be, in the way of your hookshot.
Yeah, that's true. Hookshot logic doesn't matter much here. unless like Cold Stare has regression.
Yep. The other thing that we could be mildly concerned about is if Cold Stare has a small key that would just lead towards this being Cane of Samaria locked, which again we'd have to find an item here for that to be relevant. But
well, Cold Stare being Cane of Samaria locked, and actually really this dungeon in general being hookshot locked, is relevant because Ice Palace is a 5/6 crystal, which does lock those items out of Pyramid Fairy if relevant.
Yep, and with pod completed, I'm fairly certain that Mclagging will be able to go ahead and do Pyramid Fairy as soon as this dungeon's done, if my memory serves.
He can do it, it's just a matter of whether he'll choose to, or if he'll combine it with, say, Swamp Palace or some other play.
Well,
And there's our map.
correct.
Sometimes the seed be like that.
Congratulations on your lamp location guessing.
And I believe it was no big key, no small key in the 3 relevant chests for hookshot logic, which would make this dungeon, or at least I guess the right side of it and probably Cold Stare, locked by the hookshot. But again, only really matters for Pyramid Fairy at this point.
Yeah, I believe you are correct, but my understanding of Ice Palace is very limited.
I did see a red rupee in the iced tea chest, which would actually make all 3 items in the 3 chests that you care about for trying to determine the hookshot logic in this dungeon. Oh, or chat's correcting me and saying it was a big key. Okay.
I didn't see it at all. I had a couple frames that just did not show up on my lovely little screen here, so he went from...
sorry. The big key being in that chest does still hookshot lock everything, so it still doesn't change any of what I'm saying. And that's an ugly location to be in with the green male. Has to drink both potions to get out of it.
Yeah, I imagine this is going to be a watch it burn Cold Stare fight from this point forward.
Yeah, that it is, once he got his magic bar back.
Yeah, those puffs doing 4 hearts apiece, and this was Samaria lock, so that's 2 items we will not get from the Pyramid Fairy.
Practically the only 2 items we still need at this point as well. So if Mclagging knows his logic and we know our logic, would be very surprised to see that play from him. On AceZero's side, he's entering the Mothula fight, actually on pretty much the same equipment that Mclagging was, although he's got mail and more health.
Yeah, also a couple more fire rod shots, though. AceZero has gone straight hammer at this point.
I don't dislike the hammer play. Low equipment Moth is basically whatever you're most comfortable with. So you just got to make it work.
Alright, and burning that blue goo, so not going to have that any longer.
Does get his ice rod out of it, which has to be reassuring at this point.
Amusingly enough, Mclagging deciding to do all of the Death Mountain checks in logic. That very rarely happens.
There wasn't much of a push. Well, I say there wasn't much of a push towards the mountain this seed, but if you were willing to do it lampless, early mirror, early hammer does sort of push. And there, rest in peace, the pedestal hopes and dreams, as it is just a bee in a bottle.
Yeah, and this might be kind of problematic for AceZero having cleared 2 of those pendant dungeons with Mclagging. definitely turning his nose up at one of them, and we'll see what he decides to do here when he gets near Hera.
Conventionally speaking, Hera's right in the way, and it's not exactly slow, so I wouldn't be surprised to see entry. But races can do funny things to people's routings, especially in one-on-one situations. Actually, that reminds me, we have not yet seen a check of the Bombos tablet, have we?
We have not. We have seen now 2 checks on AceZer, but nothing on Bombo so far. Might be waiting for Swamp Palace to kind of route that one in.
Swamp Palace or the Purple Chest.
Yep, which AceZer took to Thieves Town, but then dropped. So that has not been used up yet.
And of course, if AceZer chooses to go back, pick it back up, and then mirror and flute, he can't check Bombos off of that. He would have to take the long walk if he wanted to.
So Mclagging literally did 1 check and then just bounced. Well, that wasn't what I wanted, so forget it. Didn't even check the lobby chest there, which is kind of interesting.
My guess is he saw the compass and decided the risk of having to do the basement for an item was too high for his tastes right then.
That's a fair point. That lobby chest was guaranteed to be a big key or a small key at that point so that we could get somewhere, and if Mclagging wasn't planning on completing Hera, or for that matter, doing the basement to get the big key and then complete Hera, not worth his time.
Well, here on Ace's side, we are seeing another location that is fairly high on the list of commonly orphaned locations in the Graveyard Ledge Cave.
Yep, and for this game, it is on the list of locations that should have been left orphans.
Well, that's rando for you. Did Ace miss the bird there? What happened?
I'm not entirely certain. I'm trying to come up with a pun, but I've got nothing so far. So give me a minute, I might get back to you. He tried to chuck the duck? I don't know. I got nothing. Sorry.
I was gonna say, is Ace making a Swamp Palace play, but no, he fluted here. He does not have a Dark World portal. This is just the checks that he is yet to do.
Yep, 56-minute mini Moldorm cave. Not something you see every day.
Definitely more interesting than the hour or so escapes that we see in Open Seed sometimes. Shoutouts to Standard Mode.
Mclagging gonna go ahead and collect his whole lot of nothing and magic powder.
Which we know the magic powder doesn't lead to anything, so it's a whole lot of nothing and a little bit of safety.
I was gonna say, don't completely disrespect that magic powder. It can be really useful on some of these dungeons.
It's not directly randomizer related, but I was watching a vanilla no major glitches race once, and a runner did fake powder with the actual powder at the top of Ganon's tower. I've been sold on powder as a safety ever since.
That's a fair point. That's kind of an interesting thing. Out of magic, I would assume.
Yes, out of magic, so he had no choice but to do it with the glitch that you normally use the mushroom for fake powder for.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Anyways, AceZer doing his flipper checks. He did Orphan Zora earlier. I was wondering if we were going to see an Ice Palace play out of him, but he pulled out the flute here, so...
Yep, and that is a check that Mclagging hasn't made either. So it'll be interesting to see what Zora has when the time comes, as AceZer gets ignored by our little bird friend again.
I really don't understand. Well, we did see a red boomerang on the desert ledge. That we'll be seeing that picked up. We do get to see the mire area checks here.
You know, I'll bet what's going on here is that AceZer sees that bird coming and he, well, you know, ducks.
No comment.
No duck either, ironically enough, twice.
Anyways, we did see Ether to enter Misery Mire there. Since it is a pendant dungeon, dipping it without Cane of Samaria is not the end of the world, because that only blocks access to the boss. If AceZer is feeling behind after that ped check and knowing he did 2 useless pendant dungeons, we may see him just go for the 3rd.
That would definitely be an interesting Samaria location, wouldn't it? Or even... Oh, actually, would
yeah,
kind of have
I'm
difficulty
silly.
getting into Mire.
I forgot about that requirement. I did a very silly thing. You need
Oh.
either the boots or the hookshot to get into the front door.
It's okay, I didn't realize it until I was like, you know, he could find hookshot in... Wait a minute. We will get to determine once and for all if boots is going to be required for this seed, at least GT Big Key notwithstanding.
Well, not yet. We're going to see this chest first. AceZer determined to do it in the most roundabout way possible for us.
Holding us in suspense. And that's what
there's
you
the
get.
lock. We don't know if it's the big key or the small key. Honestly, we don't really care because it has to be one of the two and it blocks the other one. And there's
Alright,
Ace intentionally denying his duck.
That's normally called a hat trick. Can we come up with a different term there? Duck trick? I don't know.
I'm not going to
ducking.
hold that one against him because I'm pretty sure it was intentional so he could get this Agahnim cave check.
Yeah, that does make sense. This will be a really interesting location if something's there. Going with the kamikaze bomb route. Useful, but not exactly progression.
Opens up a grand total of 0 checks.
It opens up a couple checks for a noob like me.
I guess if you're really determined to just face tank everything, it could help.
I'm not determined to, it just accidentally happens all the time. Chat, meanwhile, coming up with the quack trick, which I like. That's a good one.
And here's the other out-of-the-way Sphere 1 check that we haven't seen from either runner at this point. The Ice Rod Cave.
I think we could also call it the Triducta. Anyways, I have derailed this conversation for far too long. My apologies. On Mclagging's side, we could end up actually seeing a purple chest, which, if there's something here, that would be not fun for AceZer, as I don't think they'll be coming back for it anytime soon.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us, he is fluting it, not carrying it. I didn't catch if Mclagging had checked the Grove Cave, the so-called Cave 45. If he did, that would be good to route that in and Bombos, but the chest itself is nothing anyways. The big problem at this point is that we're running out of plays that aren't hookshotless Swamp Palace.
Yeah, we do still have Zora. Zora is on the table.
Only the big fish himself. The rest of the area has been cleared.
Yes. Zora's on the table, and I think we've just about cleared everything else. So, yeah,
Between the two, yeah.
Or Mire. We could have a Mire jump.
Nope. We already discussed that one, remember?
Oh my goodness. Alright. It's Friday. I'm blaming it on the fact that it's Friday.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold it against you because I wish we could just to save these guys from the frustration that is Hookless Swamp. Although chat's bringing up Spike Cave has not yet been done. That is another one-off, out-of-the-way location that does still exist.
Yeah, Spike Cave. Bombo's tablet can be checked, but not much more than information from that spot.
I guess the real question here, if you're Mclagging and you've got your three options of Spike Cave, Zora, and Swamp Palace, which one do you do first?
Oof. Honestly, that would depend upon how lucky or unlucky I was feeling. I generally play these seeds, at least personally, by a gut feeling. So if I'm feeling like this seed's been kind of spitting in my face, then I would do Swamp last. Because going into Swamp and then, it end up being Zora or Spike Cave having my hookshot would be just about par for the course at that point. So if I were feeling kind of lucky, I'd go Swamp. If not, I would check everything but Swamp first. And also keep in mind, Mclagging still has all of Eastern Palace and I'm going to say all of Tower of Hera because although he did see the compass, didn't get any items out of there.
Yeah, that's fair. And that does mean he does have the potential saving grace of Tower of Hera luring him up to Spike Cave. Meanwhile, AceZer showing off the problem with trying to do the low percent strat without boots. Had to knock one of those Pengators aside, couldn't blow it up. That's unfortunate.
Although, at least hopefully, AceZer is going to have a slightly easier time with Cold Stare with that red mail. Perhaps not an easier time with this staircase, though. This staircase is no joke. And I think we're going to have our begrudging Swamp check. Yep, here we go.
Looks like this is a Grove Ledge Cave check, maybe a Bombos check first.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just feel like while you're over here, might as well hit up Swamp, so we'll see.
Also, Chad is pointing out that Mclagging has done nothing in the Zora area, which does further incentivize him to go there as well, because that's 4 checks instead of just 1.
That is a good point. Although, so far, he has been completely and totally keen on just ignoring that area's existence, so we'll see how much longer that lasts.
If he was willing to take the long walk, he could catfish, too, for a 5th check.
Oof, that's not a fun check at this given point.
No, but it's just a matter of, do you think you need to do it to win the race? Because that's really the only decision making that matters in a one-on-one race.
That's fair, especially when you're down 0-1 from your perspective. You're really just looking for the play that's going to give you the match, or at least not lose it.
Well, for now, we've just got both runners retracing old steps at this point. AceZer doing Ice Palace, Mclagging clearing up miscellaneous overworld checks. So, while we're here and while you guys are watching this, shout out to the runners. Make sure to follow them on Twitch as well.
Yeah, very much so. These guys are putting on a show, and they're both kind of getting randoed, but they're doing as best they can with it, so definitely deserving of a follow here.
Yep, and for those of you watching on Twitch, their links are now in Twitch chat. For those of you watching on YouTube or something after the fact, just twitch.tv/ and then exactly what you see in their name boxes at the top. Twitch.tv/Mclagging, twitch.tv/AceZer0187.
Alright, so we are headed north. We might get a big bomb here. Yep, so it looks like Mclagging was not following our big red bomb logic. Though, to be fair, we still do need the boots, and that is an option you could get here, so worth the check anyways.
And also, to be fair, I know the Ice Palace logic because I am literally looking right at it. in the middle of a race, you are not looking at that, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to remember. Also, as Chad is pointing out, we do still need at least one sword, which could also be in the fairy.
Vanilla Fairy Sword would be interesting. Actually, we could potentially just get a Vanilla Fairy, and I don't think that would be completely unwelcome at this point.
Mclagging has not seen the Pyramid Ledge itself, but that's just arrows. AceZero opting not to crack Cold Stare's shell with Bombos, but there's the boots for Mclagging.
Well, AceZero doesn't have Bombos.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I was completely looking at Ether and shifted everything one left. But now
AceZero
Mclagging
does have that red goo.
Yep. And a hammer. Mclagging, though, making good use of those boots, getting himself over to Catfish, and he'll mirror right to Zora afterwards. Ooh, he only has 400 rupees, so you can't check Zora.
Yeah, I don't recall how many rupees were in our grand total of flipper checks here, but I don't think it totaled 100. So, yeah,
I don't
we might
think
just see Zora completely orphaned.
I don't think it totaled 1, if I remember. Well, I guess there was a 20 on the ledge, I think. So I don't think it totaled 21. But yeah.
Oh man, that could be really, really interesting if Zora ends up having something.
Especially because, as chat's calling out, these boots cannot be blocking the hookshot or Samaria.
Right, so Desert is not going to have anything. And yeah, our King's Tomb and... Huh. That's interesting. So we really don't have a whole lot to check yet.
Misery Mire could have Samaria. That's the best we can do. Because the hookshot's got to be available elsewhere.
Right.
But yeah, at this point, we're not going to see the Mire dip before the Swamp dip, I don't think. And the Swamp dip is still looking to be hookless. Of course, the good news about a hookless Swamp is that if you do everything else first, hookshot has to be there.
Yeah, Mclagging going ahead and keeping that crystal heavy priority as he runs in here to go ahead and complete the desert. And AceZero does have that purple chest, so that'll be one less orphan check for them.
He is in the Dark World too, so he can check that Bombos tablet.
And potentially go into Swamp afterwards.
Honestly, what I want to see here is I want to see hookshot on that Bombos tablet, just to see if AceZero goes into Swamp looking for a sword, or if he tries to put that off.
Yeah, at this point, we're kind of running out of locations for swords, too.
Yeah, it completely goes contrary to what I just said, but 3 swords in GT, easy game, easy life.
Nope, nothing here.
Okay, so that's one out of the way location gone.
And
Still Spike Cave, still Zora. Still the Helmets War King for AceZero.
Although, if I remember correctly, that sucker just got a map, so it'll just be another crystal for him.
That is true, but at the very least, for him, it'll open up the Pyramid Fairy, let him get those boots. Even if the boots can't be blocking either of the items we need by logic, that's still something.
Yep, the sooner you can get those boots, the quicker the rest of your life will be. Not to mention, the more tolerable it'll be, because running everywhere is a heck of a lot more fun than walking everywhere.
Ain't that the truth?
So we can also take another item location off of our eventual list here. Sahasrara's not going to have anything.
Right. I'm considering that an extension of Mire, but I agree that not everybody would think of it in that way necessarily, so that's good to call out.
And Landmo more resembling Trolldorm there for a minute. Twice.
These short hops are killer, man.
Running out of fire rod shots is killer as well. Yep, here comes out the hammer. Stupid Landmo.
Good news is hammer is tempered sword damage. Bad news is the hitbox. Good news is he wins anyways and gets 5 rupees for his shot.
Yep, and probably more importantly at this point, the 5th crystal. So we are getting there.
Yep. And he still needs the Cane of Samaria and the hookshot. Hookshot to clear swamp, cane to clear Turtle Rock.
It will be interesting to see how much Mclagging doubles down on those on that no pendant play he's been doing.
I think we're about to learn. I don't know if he's done Smith's Chain yet. I think that's what this play is.
No, Mclagging definitely did Smith Chain because he's the one who showed us the purple chest first.
Oh, you're right. So I guess this would be a Graveyard Ledge play for him, combined with the Bonk Rocks and King Tombs play, even though we know that those two can't have the actual progression.
Look, at this point, the Master Sword is worth it.
If they find it, yeah.
Well, you gotta find it eventually, right?
Magic is real nice. Especially because I'm still not thinking they will find swords at least before Swamp Palace, if not before Ganon's Tower outright.
Yeah, this seed has not been overly friendly on swords at all. Speaking of
the
friendly,
first one was free.
Well, yeah, the first one was, but then it's been nothing but nothing but air since then. So we'll see.
Chat's asking if the hookshot could be first chest hookshot cave. In a normal seed, it could. In this one, it could not. But it is important to note that in a normal seed where we don't know that the hookshot is blocking the boots, it could, as Mclagging finds his Master Sword.
Yep, the only reason it can't be here is because the boots were behind Cold Stare, which was behind Hookshot. So, can't find it. For that matter, Cane of Samaria can't be there either, so Hookshot Cave is summarily out.
Oh, Mclagging's getting his cash from the library to make a Zora play. Oh, or did he just not check it the first time? I thought he was just Galaxy Brain getting this so he could go immediately check Zora, but nope.
Nope, looks like we might have a Hera / hopefully Spike Cave check as well. It would be really unfortunate to come here again and not do Spike Cave.
Ether Tablet as well, I believe, for Mclagging.
Yes. No, I think he read Ether Tablet. I think they both did.
Oh, right. He read Ether Tablet, then went into the one Hera check, and then said no. And AceZero on the other side is on his way to get his boots. Chat speculating that he'll immediately go to Desert after this and get that crystal. We'll see. Because I think he knows that that can't be the progression.
Alright, here we go. So we know Mclagging's not going to get a darn thing out of Hera, so we'll have a moment there. I wouldn't be surprised to see AceZero do Desert, if just as a method of, okay, let me take a deep breath, complete a crystal I need to complete. I know I'm not going to find anything here. And then let's go ahead and think about where I want to go next to try and find either my hookshot, or my Cane of Samaria. Because this is kind of an interesting logic seed if you've been following it while you've been playing, which is difficult to do.
Yep. Does look like a King's Tomb play from him. Probably into Bonk Rocks after that. He will get his Master Sword out of this, but that's a sign to me that he may not necessarily have fully followed the hookshot logic, which means that we could see a Mire play out of this. That would be interesting for the Cane of Samaria.
That would be. It would also, if Mclagging doesn't go into Mire, it would pretty much seal the deal on it being Mclagging's race to lose, because after completing 2 pendants and not finding a darn thing in them, if AceZer goes into Mire, where we know that, he's not going to find anything in Mire, that would be just a lot more wasted time.
No, we don't know that he won't find anything in Mire, though. Because we know that the hookshot is before Ice Palace, we could find the Cane of Samaria behind the hookshot in Misery Mire. And
no,
he's making the blood.
I don't think so, because the Ice Palace was also Cane of Samaria locked.
Ice Palace was both... Cold Stare was locked by both the hook and the cane. Need both to beat Cold Stare.
Right.
But that doesn't preclude the cane being behind the hookshot, even if it can't be behind the boots.
So that would imply that we would get the hookshot somewhere else. At this point, almost definitely Swamp.
Although with that pull from Mclagging and Spike Cave, all that theory crafting goes out the window.
I didn't even see what was pulled. I was watching AceZer.
He pulled it.
Oh,
So now he goes to Turtle Rock, where he can find potentially a hookshot.
Alright, so I ended up being right, but for the wrong reasons. If AceZer runs into Mire at this point, it's going to be problematic.
Oh, yes. At this point, AceZer may or may not know it, but entering Mire would be a total disaster for him, unfortunately. So let's send our hopes and dreams that he doesn't do it.
But outside of Zora, I think we've checked everything else at this point.
Pre-Cane of Samaria, yes. Aside from Swamp Palace. But this Turtle Rock is going to be fully in logic.
Right. So what I was saying was, I mean, if we're looking for the hookshot at this point, we're looking in basically Zora, Turtle Rock, and the front of Swamp, which would obviously be the most fun.
Yeah, and if you're rooting for AceZer here, you both want it to be in Swamp, and you want him to make the play pretty much as soon as possible.
Yeah, best case scenario for AceZer would be running into Swamp right now. Just saying, you know what? I cleared 2 pendants. We're going to go for hookshot and Swamp. And then it ended up being there.
Unfortunately, while we would like to see it, the psychological barrier of hookless Swamp is absolutely massive, especially in a high-pressure race setting.
That's fair, but it's also one of those high-risk, high-reward plays, and if AceZer was feeling particularly behind, with the fact that, I've already got 1 win in this series, it might just be a go big or go home moment.
Yep. I think I said it earlier, but race mentalities are weird. You can justify pretty much anything in any direction.
Oh yeah, especially in the moment there. It is super easy to be like, oh yeah, this is what's going to win me the race. And then, looking back at it after, you're like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done in a randomizer. What was I thinking? Or you do something really dumb and it pays off, and then you look like a genius.
Unfortunately, AceZer is making the play that we know isn't it. He's opening up Misery Mire.
Yeah, the hope at this point is that we have 2 items like pretty much right away. So that you basically go item, item, big key, and then he'll probably go and turn in the green pendant at this point, and not get anything out of that, but it'll be the minimal amount of time wasted.
The good news for him is that he cannot reach Vitreous without the Cane of Samaria. So he's not going to do the slow back section.
Right.
So really, ideal situation. Oh, there's the hookshot in Turtle Rock. Go figure. Mclagging is now in go mode, 1:23, almost 1:24 in.
Yep, an hour, 24 minutes in, Mclagging is rolling.
Yep, all he's got to do is just run Turtle Rock here, run back down to Swamp, go mode that, and easy game, easy life.
That's kind of a salty rando thing, though. Come on, man. Hookshot and Turtle Rock? That's not nice.
I think everything about this seed after the first, say, 12 minutes falls under salty rando thing.
I've been seeing a lot of that lately. It will be interesting to see how many chests Mclagging decides to open up for a potential tempered or Skullwoods. Oh my goodness. Silvers. I swear, I'm paying attention.
The good news is that Turtle Rock has a lot of chests that are in the way. Like we see he's skipping Mimic Cave here, but Big Chest, Crystal Roller Room, and Laser Bridge is 6 quick chests that are what? Still 3 items, I believe, if I've been counting correctly.
Yeah, fairly certain you're correct there. The interesting potential gamble will be, if not required, are we going to see a Laser Bridge check?
I do think that one's quick enough that if he's interested in tempered or silvers, he'll do it. Because he did find a Scent Cart there in the Crystal Roller chest, which is always nice for a
Yeah, especially late in Turtle Rock, it's a great place to find it. But my scenario not end up being relevant since we're going to have to grab a key over in Laser Bridge anyways.
And the good news for AceZer is he did find 2 items in Misery Mire without having to go to that cutscene chest. 600 rupees, according to our tracker, Nif Boy.
Yeah, the bad news that I think we're going to see a swamp play at this point, which we know is going to prove fruitless because, well, we already have the hookshot.
There's another unique item in Turtle Rock.
The Arrow of Destiny. The Laser of Destiny.
Also, shoutouts to V31 for putting laser skips into logic. The game does no longer assumes that you will have either an invincibility item or the mirror shield for lasers. Assuming you're playing the advanced item placement mode at least.
Yeah, I'm not as thrilled about that. I really need to work on my laser skips. Alrighty, so we are about to have a wonderful hammer Trinex, which is always fun to do.
I enjoy Hammer Trinex a lot. The only problem with it is that you can't do the fun strats where you get behind Trinex before his heads climb out. So you can't do fun like zero cycle sort of strats. Although you can't do those without a gold sword anyways, so.
Yeah, but even when you have Tempered Sword, you can still one-cycle it from the back, and it still feels pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't actually know if you can do that with Hammer. I don't know if the hitbox physically allows for it. I would have to check. But that would be really cool if you could.
Alright, so the one good thing about having AceZer run through Swamp at this point is that we are going to get to see what's in Swamp. So from a completionist standpoint, we'll get a lot more knowledge, but we're not going to see any of that on Mclagging's side. He is just going to barrel through Swamp, go straight back to Argus, and grab his 7th crystal.
Yep, that's 6 for him with that Trinex kill. And like you said, 7th one, all he's got to do is jump off the mountain and just do the very quick and easy go mode swamp.
Alright, Mclagging showing a faulty duck as well.
And AceZer is making the left side swamp play, which is, once he's in the dungeon without the hookshot, it's the only play he can make. But you still hate to see it because this is the slowest possible left side swamp play. Because without the hookshot, you can't grab the key on the right side, and you can't hookshot around to pots for shortcuts. And literally the only upside is that it is impossible to flood the key under that pot on AceZer's screen.
Yep, in addition, with no hookshot, we're going to see the jump down, climb up, jump down. And with any set of misfortune, we're also going to see the big key in some terrible spot that's going to allow AceZer to continue to traverse back to the big chest.
I mean, at this point, he's just playing vanilla.
Yeah, pretty much. Unfortunately, not going to be rewarded with a vanilla hookshot, either end of it.
Although we do see Mclagging skipping that first bombable wall chest. Indicates to me he might skip the flooded chests in the back, too.
Yeah, at this point, the only chest I would most definitely expect Mclagging to pick up is the waterfall chest, since it is literally right there.
Yeah. On the flip side, the list of items that AceZer could really benefit from at this point is pretty small, just sword upgrades and silvers. So, no big loss in skipping chests. We know that he's good enough at the game to clear Ganon with a Master Sword.
Yep, and there's the big key, so now we get to walk our butts all the way back to the big chest.
He's playing vanilla. Seems good to me.
Yeah, it seems good until you crack open the big chest and get something ridiculous like, I don't know, 20 rupees. Or the Bombos Medallion, which is completely and totally useless in this game.
Yep, there are worse prizes to have gotten out of that, though. At least Bombos lights up on the tracker and looks nice in your inventory, and hey, a tempered sword.
Alright, so are we going to see a mushroom turn in for silvers? Nah.
No way. That's one of those things that's actually just not worth the time.
Ha! And after picking up tempered, Mclagging is good to go.
Yep, at this point, no reason for him to make any checks that aren't en route to the Ganon's Tower big key once he gets in there.
Hey, speaking of which, the bot is down, so we're not going to be able to keep official score. Sorry, guys. We do still have a guessing game in a couple minutes.
Chat's free to guess. Chat's also free to not guess. They can do what they want. But like you said, no bot, nobody keeping score, no official winners, sadly.
I think AceZer is going to go check the first chest in Hookshot Cave, which is going to be heartbreaking, honestly.
There's a clean cold stare kill from Mclagging. Not quite the zero cycle goodness that everybody dreams of, but that one is probably the single most difficult thing in the game, in my opinion. So getting the way he did is perfectly good by me. Very well done.
Alrighty, so now that it's that time, Reg, do you have a guess?
It's always number 10, but I generally don't post the guess in chat. Which, oh well.
Alright, that's fair. I'm gonna go ahead and say 17, and we might see a hover here. We might not see a hover here.
Hovering at this point is just a last gasp effort to try to find the Cane of Samaria, unfortunately, so that he can get into Turtle Rock. But I think at this point he has to know that with the hookshot not being in Swamp Palace, there really aren't any places it can be except Turtle Rock, which means just go find your cane and get it there.
Yep, but that leaves the question, where in the heck is the Cane of Samaria?
Well, he's on the right track at least, because he's going into Spike Cave. And I think he's down to just 2 locations, this or Zora.
Which, thankfully, at least we'll get to see what Zora is holding in the credits, since we didn't actually get to see it from either of our runners and are very unlikely to see it at this given point.
Yep. The only possible exception would be is if AceZer wanted to go there before Turtle Rock for some reason, but he really has no reason to at this point.
Yeah, no, not with Turtle Rock staring you in the face. There is no reason to head towards Zora at this point. Especially since AceZer has no reason to believe that Mclagging also hasn't checked Zora. Meanwhile, cabbages being cabbages.
Yep, disrupting the super speed, and without the hook shot, he can't even take the clean way over. Anyways, chest 1 in Ganon's Tower, small key, chest 2, silver arrows. It's always nice to find those. And he's going to the right with that small key. Pretty conventional GT routing at this point.
Yep, compass room next, and then we'll probably see a mirror out and full left side. And dead rocks being dead rocks for AceZer, so really just kind of getting the business from everything up here.
There's chest 3 is a shield, 4 is a red rupee, 5 is the big key. So shoutouts to a crazy crocodile in chat guessing 5 for the big key. You win absolutely nothing, but have a good day, sir. Or madam, as the case may be, I have no idea.
That's rude. You gotta pretend like they won something.
They won a nice day. Anyways, the bright side here, Mclagging getting that fire shield in Ganon's Tower means he will have it for the single most important room to have that shield for in the game, the dreaded Landmolus 2 fight.
Yeah, that Medusa can get really annoying really fast. Meanwhile, AceZer will be in go mode shortly.
He does have to do these right side fire rod lock checks and then get his way over to the chain chomp room, but yes, in 3 checks, AceZer will be in go mode. And unfortunately, he muscle memoried himself. You can't take that route without the hook shot. Good thing he did. Now all he's got to do is loop around this once, and he'll be right back on the proper path. And he might have to loop a second time for the torches to go out. Nope, he's good. He is all good.
Yeah, I think we've all done that more than a handful of times.
I can attest to that, yeah. On Mclagging's side, he made an absolute mockery of the Ganon's Tower Gauntlet, and now he is in that aforementioned Landmolus 2 fight. where we will see if his shield actually comes into play. It has not so far. Hey, it happened. The fire shield did something, everybody. Best item in the game right there.
Wait a minute. You cannot put the fire shield over the blue boomerang. Come on, man.
Blue boomerang is best boomerang. But it doesn't block fireballs in Landmola's too.
Yeah, but it makes a wonderful gopher.
That's not what you want the blue boomerang for. That's Red's job.
No, red's too laggy to make a reliable gopher.
Anyways, AceZero's screen, we did see him grab that hookshot out of the chain chomp room, which means he is now in go mode as well. Unfortunately, gonna be a bit too little too late for him to win the race, but still gonna watch him finish out the seed, I'm assuming, and give you guys a good show still.
Yep, the second dip of swamp will be significantly quicker than the first.
Also getting to see the fun Zero Suit Samus bunny sprite there.
Alrighty, and we have our wonderful worm, round 2. Never mind.
What, I blinked. Did I miss it?
No, you didn't really miss anything of importance, don't worry about it. Anyways, Agahnim is next, and this fight should take at least a little bit longer than Moldorm 2 did.
Yeah, we'll see how the cycles go. The big things to worry about in the Agahnim 2 fight are getting the main body desynced from the 2 clone bodies, and the fact that while the clone bodies will never fire the blue ball attacks at you, the main body can. Which there's a double right there to start him off.
And another double. Looking for one more, which I think we'll get. Yep. Alright, 3 cycle. Very nicely done.
Yep, very clean 2-2-2, about the best pattern you can realistically ask for. Because getting a 2-cycle Agahnim is absolutely nuts, requires a lot of good luck and a lot of good play.
Yep, and no blue ball on that second round, which can be absolutely devastating after you pull a triple the first round and see a good setup for a potential triple the second round. But perfect Agahnim fights aside, now we get to face the piggy, and with the tempered sword and the silvers, this won't take too long.
Nope. The main thing to look for here is whether he can 1-cycle the first 2 phases, which it looks like he's getting the 1-cycle on the first phase, no problem. So now it's just a matter of the second one. He's resorting to the cake to make sure he gets it.
Makes sense at this point. Time is much more important than a little bit of magic when you have silvers and half magic. Meanwhile, Ganon making a reference to his piggish nature by inquiring as to why there's a light in the fridge. And, you know, kind of implying that it's because, well, we all like midnight snacks. Can't blame him for that.
Nope. Not at all. And there's Ganon complaining that he found the silver. 1 arrow, 3 to go. No torch glitch, doesn't need it. Should have a triple right here. Ooh, doesn't get it.
You know, we almost went the entire race without a commentator's curse. Come on, man. We almost had it.
Yeah. I had to do it, man. Anyways, get your GGs in chat for Mclagging, who is finishing this race with an official time of 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 27 seconds. The seed knows.
Yep, you can just kind of look at the seed at this point and say, you know what you did.
Meanwhile, on AceZero's side, we are getting the Hammer Trinex fight. Both heads down. All he's got to do is wait for Trinex to come out of his shell, and that'll be that.
All right, so the one thing on Mclagging's side that I'm definitely going to be looking for is what did our fish fiend have for us?
And speaking of Mclagging, we'll try to get him in for an interview here in a second, see if he'll join us. And here he is. We're joined by the winner of the race, Mclagging. GG.
Hey, thanks.
Good run on a less than good season.
Yeah. I was talking to Ace on the IRC, and like, I think this seed was worse than our first one, which is saying something.
Your first seed was, it was what, a 90-second difference in final times?
We were only off 90 seconds, but we both made the call to dip swamp without the hookshot to find the flute, to beat desert to go to Pyramid Fairy to get the hookshot.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
ugly.
this version has been not friendly so far.
It really hasn't. I think anymore you just have to be in the mindset you're just gonna end up full clearing no matter what, so just hope you find the item first in the end.
Yeah, pretty much. I think AceZer was thinking that clean out of the box because they had 2 pendants done before they'd even completed any of the crystals. So it was kind of a matter of, well, I'm probably going to be doing this anyways. Unfortunately for them, it did not end up working out as there was absolutely nothing in Eastern or Tower of Hera.
I was worried about Ped. Once I found the king, I was like, the hookshot could be there. I haven't read Ped at all. So I was a little worried about that because I was putting off the pendant dungeons as much as I could most of the seed.
That's a reasonable way to approach, though. And the book was in the dark locked portion of Pod, and I guess no, you did Skull Woods long before Pod, right?
Yeah, I did Thieves Town and Skullwood first. Then I made my way over to Pod.
Yeah. Meanwhile, AceZero made the opposite play and did read the PED, so we had that information. It was just never conveniently timed for you to have it.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. One check you guys both skipped was Zora, so no idea what's sitting on Zora for now.
We did see a piece of heart in the credits.
Right. I was trying so hard to do Big Bomb with Zora, but I could not get enough money for the life of me. I was putting it off for so long, hoping I need 600 rubies, and I never got it.
There are 600 rupees in Misery Mire if you want to go get them.
Well, maybe later.
Also,
Maybe next
speaking of checks, AceZero, unfortunately, not checking those flooded chests in Swamp Palace means that unless he finds another one in GT somewhere, he will not have a Tempered Sword.
Yeah. At least the silver arrows are pretty free on the right side there.
Yeah. Anyways, there is one question I want to ask you about this seed Mclagging. That hookshot logic. Did you follow it? Did you have it in mind, or did you just roll?
I just rolled.
All right. Because we figured out that Ice Palace was hookshot locked based on key placements.
Oh.
So was wondering if that was in either of your minds at any point, really.
That hookshot logic in Ice Palace, I once knew it, and I started getting it wrong, and I'm just confused. I'm just like, I'm just gonna clear it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's about the way to go.
Amusingly enough, Pyramid Fairy was theoretically pretty much useless, given that the 2 of the 3 items you needed at that point were both technically required to beat Ice Palace, being Cane of Samaria with the key on Cold Stare, and Hookshot technically being required because, you know, key placement in Ice Palace is sometimes terrible. But then you ended up grabbing the boots out of there, so it was like, well, that ended up working out regardless.
Yeah.
And
That
on
was-
top of that, boots led to your Master Sword, so good find
that
all
was
around.
the best part, yeah. This logic in hiding swords, it's been really good at hiding the swords. Most seeds you play anymore.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised because there's still a sword missing. And I thought we'd seen all the checks on the overworld, and we've seen, I think, every check in every dungeon at this point, too, aside from Ganon's Tower. So I guess that's where the fourth sword must be.
Yeah, we might see it here if AceZer goes, either goes Hope Room and then full left or just straight full left.
Yeah, or it could be upstairs as well, which I think Mclagging skipped all the upstairs chests, and who knows what AceZer will do with them once he gets there. And then Chad also mentioning Sahasrahla could have had the fourth sword as well. We never actually saw that because we never saw the mire clear.
That is right. So has AceZer made any noises about what they might decide to change for the third race, if anything?
He hasn't yet. We haven't started talking about scheduling that one. Of course, I wasn't even sure if we were going to get a race 3 since how close our first one was. He easily could have knocked me out on this one. So we'll find out. Hopefully that'll be coming up here soon.
I think AceZer is deciding that he's going to go ahead and do a stubborn hover here, having the hookshot, but not caring.
Oh yeah, this is another place that the third sword could be. Doesn't get it there, but he can just hook right back and just have to do the one hover again. And no sword, how sad.
Yeah, that bonk not being quite long enough.
Nah, but time for Ganon's Tower as soon as he goes one more screen transition and watches the cutscene. And as we see,
that 142 collection rate not actually being terrible.
Yeah, I have absolutely no grounds to base this on, but I generally shoot for 150 as a pretty good marker. And in a seed as terrible as this one, breaking that is definitely pretty solid.
Yeah, it also kind of fools you because you look at 142 and you're like, oh, that seed must not have been that bad, but no, it was. We can guarantee it was. And AceZer is going left, so we may very well see that fourth sword.
Of course, with the fourth sword, or not the fourth sword, excuse me, with the four chests on the right not being his initial route, those will probably be the last checks he makes besides Tile Room, which means it'll probably be somewhere in the 18 to 21 range for the big key for AceZer.
Yep, so for those of you who were guessing high in hopes of a trolley big key GT placement, first off, shame on all of you. And secondly, you're going to get it from AceZer, so doubly shame on all of you.
Our tracker in Chatnifboy is calling out another location. We didn't see this race because both runners were in go mode when they got there. We didn't see the Mimic Cave. So that could also be the fourth sword.
Yeah, that's fair. We do have a couple of locations still dotted around Hyrule, but by and large, they are all concentrated right here.
Yep. Outside of this, I think it's just the previously mentioned Sahasrahla and Mimic Cave checks, and then that mushroom which was found inside Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, I can't think of any other locations that haven't been checked off the top of my head, so I'm pretty sure that is our comprehensive list.
Hey, Rando Room was less useless than it is in vanilla, at least, with that heart container.
Speaking of which, AceZer up to a massive 17 hearts.
Unfortunately, that tends to be the sign of a full clear seed. You really hate to see it, but sometimes there's just no getting around it.
Yep, as several runners have said thus far in the tournament, sometimes Rando's gonna Rando.
My absolutely unscientific and subjective experience has been that this tournament's been worse than previous tournaments about it, too.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Between single item locations that were missed and those coming back to bite in the butt, and just kind of a last locationing seed or just terrible in terms of locations of items. Yeah, we've seen that a lot thus far. Which means we're going to have some really, really, really fun races later on. And even now, it's just been fun to watch in that way of, you know, I'm really happy I'm seeing it. I'm also really happy that I'm sitting here commentating on it.
Yeah. Also, chat thankfully reminding us that the credits do tell us what mushroom gives us. And the witch was a drug dealer today or something. Because the mushroom was just cash. A lot of cash, but cash.
Okay, so at this point, we have basically knocked it down to Tile Room, Mimic Cave, and the 4 chests up top Ganon's Tower. Or 5 chests.
And Saha.
And I guess technically also the big chest. Could be sitting in the big chest for just a maximum amount of troll here.
Yeah. Not very many locations left. And it does mean we'll get to see, unless it's in the upstairs GT, we'll see AceZer show us the Master Sword strats for Ganon, which are pretty nice. And that's going to be a number 20 big key for AceZer, it looks like.
Yep, and with no silvers, it is going to be a... Oh, never mind, he does have silvers. It is going to be a spin cycle up until that last stage.
Yep. Luckily for him, silvers were really free in the Hope Room. So now we've just got the tower climb left ahead of us. It's going to be this set of rooms before the gauntlet and the gauntlet itself, Wizrobe rooms, torch rooms, and the endgame.
Yep, we're getting there. Only a few minutes left.
Biggest downside to Master Sword in the Gauntlet is that it unfortunately does not one-hit kill the red horsehead enemies like the Tempered Sword does, but silver arrows do that for you. Silver arrows, incidentally, one-shot everything not named Vitreous or Ganon. Actually, maybe not Hinox either. I don't remember. I think they might be another exception.
Yeah, I can't recall if silvers are a one-hit kill on the Hinox or not.
I guess there's also that strange class of things that silver arrows and arrows in general don't hurt, but that's a slightly different story.
Yeah, we'll ignore those for the case of this particular experiment. Speaking of ignoring things...
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Landmo. Yeah, Landmo 2 being a troll.
Those short hops, man.
Yep, down to 3 silver, so wanting to be careful here.
I think there's arrows in a pot in the next room. Let's see if AceZer grabs them.
Yeah, there definitely are. It's one of the 4. And, yep, there you go.
8 arrows, plenty for Ganon. But yeah, At some points, I really just wish I could plop a silver arrow in Moldorm's face and be done with him. Unfortunately, game does not allow for that.
You know, that wouldn't be an easy shot, even if you could.
No, but it'd be a fun one. And what the game does allow for is one cycling those Wizrobe rooms with the Cane of Samaria in a super satisfying to execute and fun to watch strat. I recommend anybody interested in learning these games learn that strat. You'll feel really good when you get it right.
Oh yeah, the first room is somewhat trivial, but that second room is just hard enough to kind of get an internal fist pump when you get it right the first couple times. And then even after that, it still feels great, even if you know that you're going to hit it, 4/5 of the time or even 90% of the time. We are seeing some checks here. And
there's the bug net.
Still no tempered, though. So how about heading back down for that big chest?
I'd rather just fight Ganon.
Yeah, fair point. Save you time at the least.
Now with this hammer for AceZer, it was gonna be 3 shots. Unfortunately, he took a hit. So now it's gonna be 3 more shots. Or he could go full Madman and hover it, like he's shown a propensity to do in Hookshot Cave. Looks like he's going for the kill, though.
Yeah, at this point, after Moldorm's been Moldorm, there's something viscerally satisfying about slamming a hammer into his tail 3 times.
Absolutely agreed with that, and not just because I can't hover myself.
I mostly play on emulators. There's no hovering for me.
Yeah, me too.
Alrighty, so we have Agahnim one more time. We'll see if AceZer can complete this with relative ease, and then we'll have a picky fight.
The patterns are fairly friendly for a 3 cycle here, excuse me. He gets the double on the first. Yeah, misses it on the second, unfortunately. But if he can get a triple here, that'll make up for it still. And unfortunately, doesn't get it.
Yep, so far 2-1-1. And yep, add another 1 to the end of that.
Does get Agahnim knocked down, though, and now he's just a cutscene away from dropping into the Ganon fight with the Master Sword.
Yep, so we're going to see 12 spins, and then 12 spins, and then 4 spins, and then thankfully a bunch of silver arrows to end it.
Chat asking about sword locations, and I believe that chat's correct when it's literally down to just Sahasrara, the Ganon Tower Big Chest, or Mimic Cave.
Which, if you think about the odds of that with 216 locations, that's kind of ridiculous.
Especially, yeah. I also noticed on Mclagging's screen, actually, he found 19 heart pieces, and he only has 14 hearts. As a reminder, for those who haven't kept count, there are 24 heart pieces in Link to the Past. So that means he missed 4 heart containers as well.
That was a really nifty sidestep through the circling bats by AceZer there.
Yep, and using the hookshot for the invincibility frames to get his double spins in here greatly speeds up this fight, although it's a fairly risky strat. Ganon giving him very favorable positions, though. Ooh, that's unfortunate. Tried to take it too fast, wound up taking a couple too many hits, and has to start it over.
Yep, I think that might mark the end of this one for AceZer.
No, he's going back in.
All right, looks like we had some contemplation there.
Yeah. Which, well, at this point you may as well power through it, especially since I believe finish times do factor into tiebreakers if AceZero were to advance out of this group, either by winning game 3 or by taking the second seed in the group. So finishing the run definitely better than not finishing the run when you consider that, especially this close to the end.
And Ganon finally giving us the perfect position for spins.
I was really worried that he was going to get a hug there, but nope.
Yeah, between those fire bats and Ganon standing right there, I had his life flash before my eyes.
Good news is he is now out of phase 2, and all he's got left is a few more spins and the silver.
Yeah, the silver is honestly preventing this from being a 52 spin extravaganza.
Anybody who wants to do that can play low percent NMG. The rest of us can stick to rando, or any percent. The problem is these spins are knocking him so far away from Ganon and at strange angles that the vulnerability times out before he can actually lodge the silvers.
Yeah, the spins make this fight way more difficult than just having a tempered sword would.
Yeah, like even using the boots to get in position there, he wasn't able to get the silver in time because of how far away the spin put him. But that is 4. And all AceZero's got to do now is cross the bridge. So go ahead, get your GGs in chat for AceZero. And that is a finish for AceZero with a final time of 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 34 seconds. So rough seed for him. A couple things didn't break his way, but still saw it all the way through to the end. Gotta respect that.
Yeah, this seed was not friendly. You can put this on a list of seeds that have been not friendly. But this does tie us up at 1-1, so we are going to see a game 3. And it'll be AceZero's decision to either keep the seed as it is, being a standard seed, as opposed to open, or perhaps making the change back to open, or perhaps changing something else. So that will be interesting to keep an eye out for. I don't know if AceZero typically does interviews or if he is so inclined after this terrible seed.
We'll see. And here he is. Hello, AceZero. GG on that run.
Hey there.
Shame it didn't break your way, but we get a game 3 out of it. So
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
that's the best I can say.
Yeah, this seed was not friendly.
No, not at all.
So I guess first, the burning question on everybody's mind at this point. Have you decided what you're going to do to the settings for Game 3 yet? And if so, are you willing to announce it?
I'm either gonna roll back to the open 7.7 or keep the standard. I'm kind of torn between just trying to get a salty run back here with standard and do better, because I definitely can do better. Or going back to what I did well and won. That's probably what I'll do, though, is just go back to the standard 7.7 open.
Absolutely
bad
no
choice.
problem with taking what you already know you can win with, because like you said, you did take game 1, and even though this seed didn't break your way, that's proof enough that it absolutely can on a different day.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even this one, it could have turned out a lot different. I definitely played pretty aggressive with overworld checks, especially when I got to the Dark World. I did a lot of overworld before I realized I hadn't done any crystal dungeons until it was almost 40 minutes that I got my first crystal. So that's pretty absurd, especially with like Thieves Town available way earlier than that. And just nothing worked out in the overworld, so it put me way behind there.
Yeah, I think you both had like 50-minute to hour mark South Shore checks, Mini Moldorm Cave, and so on, which is just a sign of how early you guys had the ability to go to the Dark World and how greatly your routes diverged and pushed you away from that. Although I would like to say that you did make the Eastern Palace play pretty early, and even if it didn't have anything this seed, I am a big fan of Pendant Eastern early on, whenever you can get it. So I appreciated that, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That was actually pretty funny, because so my last seed, I did pod. I found the mirror in pod, and left the dungeon and just saved and quit, and didn't mirror to Eastern, and Eastern was a crystal. And I almost did the same thing here. I almost left to go check like Catfish and then mirror to like the Zora area. But like I had this like last second, like, wait a minute, I can do Eastern. I might as well do it while I'm here. Like, don't make the same mistake last time. The same mistake I already made the last race. And of course, it didn't pay out, but at least I didn't come back to Eastern later to clear it for nothing, so that's okay.
Yeah, and like I keep saying, sometimes that's just how rando is. It happens, it doesn't happen, win some, lose some. Personally, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to game 3 and seeing how you run it back there.
Yeah, thanks. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I want to ask real quick. So I got really off track with the logic. I'm sure you guys had a better idea of what was going on, like the logical progression chain, than I did. With that pod play, really threw me off because the mirror was in logic when I first went there, and the mitts were locked behind either fire source, and then the book was locked behind lamp. So I couldn't figure out where the logic chain was telling me to go after that, what was available and what wasn't logically, because I had so much open. Was it evident from your perspective?
It was a little more evident, just because Mclagging had gone ahead and already gotten the fire rod out of Thieves Town, so we knew that fire rod was in logic, and it was just a matter of you were technically supposed to go to Thieves Town first to get the fire rod, and then that would lead you to, I believe, the mitts. The lamp was sitting in Ice Palace. That was kind of a non sequitur way out there, because the lamp ended up being in, the lamp was Ice Palace, which was then locked behind mitts. So technically, you were just supposed to go get the lamp from Ice Palace and then grab, oh goodness, whatever was stuck behind the dark maze, the book. So it was convoluted, but it wasn't too terrible. The really interesting part, though, was the Ice Palace logic, because I believe between Reg and I, we figured out that it was going to be Samaria locked and hookshot locked, which means Pyramid Fairy could basically just have the boots. That was pretty much the only thing you guys needed at that point that it could have possessed. And then it led to a whole host of things that could or could not be in Mire, and it got really convoluted from there. And I think Greg followed it a little better than I did.
Okay, yeah. See, I knew that it couldn't be hookshot, the Pyramid Fairy, that is. And I didn't even think until I was entering Mire. I was already on my way over there, and I realized that since hookshot was required to get the boots, I couldn't find that in Mire, but I thought maybe the cane's still there. I didn't realize that was out of logic. So that
The cane
interesting.
could have been in Misery Mire, because the way it worked was
right.
Ice Palace was simultaneously locked by Cane and Hook, but since it was blocked by both of those at the same time, there was absolutely nothing saying that the Cane had to be before or behind the Hook. Therefore, it was theoretically possible for the cane to be in Mire, just turned out not to be today.
Right, as long as hookshot wasn't behind anything boots locked, which I already knew, so that does make sense.
Yeah, and as long as hookshot wasn't also behind the cane, which it did turn out to be in this seed.
Right.
But yeah, I think you had the logic down pretty well, aside from apparently losing track in pod because you didn't have the fire rod. When we've got all the information sitting in the commentator's booth, it is a lot easier for us to keep track of it. As a runner, I know from experience how difficult it can be to keep everything straight in your head and focus on the execution of the game itself.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue, is that it definitely caused a lot of just a little bit less efficient routing choices and just some execution mistakes. I was thinking too much about it. And I even did things that I wasn't sure what was going to happen, like the purple chest. I didn't know that it reset its position when you beat a dungeon. That was kind of an experiment. I thought about that on my way to Thieves Town. I just figured I might as well try it, but
If I recall correctly, it's not dungeon clearing that clears it. It's Thieves Town specifically picking up blind that kills it, I think.
oh, because it resets the follower flag. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes more sense.
I believe there was a change to the randomizer in like V29 or V30 that prevented clearing crystal dungeons specifically from resetting the chest. Pendant dungeons still will.
Okay.
However, there is a non-zero chance that I have that totally backwards and that it is pendant dungeons that won't kill the chest while crystals do kill it. But I know that a change was made like V29 or V30 or around there that did that, and if you look up the change log, you'll find it.
Okay, well, I learned something. That's always good.
All right. So, did either of you guys have any last words you want to throw out for this lovely, friendly, kind seed that you guys slogged your way through?
Not really.
I don't blame you.
I'm looking forward to our game 3 being a hookshot go mode again. That'll just keep the pattern going.
Yeah, you can pull the hook shot from, like, I don't know, pedestal or something terrible.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be another, I don't know, item in the Swamp Palace big chest for hookshot or hookshot in there. But yeah, I think I've decided I want to do an open for the next one, just back to 7-7 open. So we'll do that. We'll get it scheduled, and hopefully it'll be a little bit closer.
All right, running it all the way back to default settings. I definitely approve of that. I suspect certain segments of chat may not, but you won on it before. No reason not to go back to it from a strategic point of view.
Yeah,
Exactly.
not to mention the less amount of insanity you throw in here, the less amount of insanity you have to deal with. It seems like these seeds are giving enough fun as it is.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the interview. I know it's a little bit later than the stream probably was expected to run, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no big deal. You guys are doing the running. I just kind of sit here and talk to myself all day. And to Reg. But Reg mostly ignores the stupid things that come out of my mouth, so a lot of times it is just me talking to myself. You guys give people something to watch, so thank you for racing.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for restream tracking and commentating. Looking forward to our game 3.
Yep, I think everybody in this booth and probably everybody in chat is as well.
Yep, and while we're on that track, shout outs to our tracker Nif Boy, who was pressing the buttons. That is a much more difficult job than it may seem to those who have not done it.
And then also shout outs to the runners who both put on the show for us, came in, was willing to talk about it with us afterwards. Twitch.tv Mclagging, Twitch.tv AceZer0187, exactly as you see on the screen. Go ahead and give those guys Twitch follows, and my co-com Hammer as well. And on top of that, the Speed Gaming channel and Speed Gaming 2 through 6 as well as ALTTP Randomizer and ALTTP Randomizer 2 through 5. Go ahead, give all those Twitch follows. And I think that's going to be about it for us. I'll leave the last word to both my co-com partner, Hammer, and if ACR and Mclagging have anything else to say.
Yeah, well, all I've got is may your seeds not be ped seeds, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little something to that this go around. May they be kinder than this one was.